Yes, minimalists have hobbies. Hobbies can take up space in our homes and can quickly lead to clutter depending on our hobby. And to me, minimalist living means that I'm actively living with less and choosing what matters most. And by doing that, it helps me recognize what matters least. And in this video, I offer you a way to rethink hobby clutter. And I share an approach to deal with it. Shows up in three areas of my life. Items that do not have a designated place in our house and therefore haphazardly just take up space. Detrimental thoughts that take up space in my noggin, and busyness in our family schedule that's not necessary. And those appear as clutter to me, and that's what my clutter looks like. And when I'm talking about hobbies, as we are in this video, I think about the stuff that comes with hobbies as either chosen clutter or effective clutter. Chosen clutter has a purpose and needs to be kept to enjoy our hobby. The key word there is enjoy with chosen clutter. And it's just a way that we need to organize it, and we need to organize it well and make it easier to enjoy the hobby. Chosen clutter may turn into effective clutter when we have more of it than we need. I found this to be true when I evaluated my journal hobby a few months back. I had more supplies than I used or needed or even knew about. And the items I had chosen to buy and keep over time had changed from deliberately chosen clutter to effective clutter. I think of effective clutter as clutter that takes up more space than we wish it to take up and amounts to more than we feel like organizing or feel like making space for in our home. Hobby clutter might fall into one of these two buckets for you when you think about your own hobby. Chosen hobby clutter that you want to make space for in your life versus effective clutter that is effectively more than you want to make space for. In this video, I'm going to share 3 of my favorite hobbies right now and how I contain the crazy that hobby chosen clutter can bring to your home. So the 3 hobbies that I'm going to share with you are gardening, reading, and journaling. Drop us all a comment below with your hobbies, and if you see any parts of your hobby that might be effective clutter, now that I kind of drew that line for you. Are there parts of your hobby that could be fine-tuned and decluttered? Let us know in the comments. As a minimalist, I focus on living a lifestyle that makes life simple so I can focus on what matters most to me. Some of what matters most to me does not change. My family, our health, our relationship with the Lord, for example. Depending on the time of year, other interests matter beyond those, such as homeschooling, getting out of debt, and most recently, allowing time for grief to do its job. What matters most is it can fluctuate in your life. And over these last 2.5 years of exploring minimalism as a solution for the chaos that surrounded us in our home, I've developed a few Minimalish principles. I share one of those Minimalish principles in this video today as a way to deal with hobby clutter. More on that in a little bit. Let's take a look at my personal hobby clutter. The first one that takes up space in our home and takes up time in every single one of my days from late February until November is gardening. I attribute gratitude to minimalism for my gardening hobby. By decluttering and carving out a definition of minimalism for me, I was able to make space in my home and in my life for things I love. Being free of that former anxiety and that stress that I internalized from our past clutter and our chaotic life means that I can now enjoy my hobbies freely and calmly. And presently, gardening takes place indoors for me as Zone B with our seedlings. And these babies are going to be hardened off in late April, early May, and moved outdoors permanently. Our lighter schedule now and less cluttered kitchen makes it easy for me to do this hobby now versus back then. I didn't have this hobby back then. There was no way I could have had physical space or time to do something like this and to enjoy it, which is the point of hobbies, to enjoy them, to improve your life. I get the feel of calmness in digging in the dirt without the chaos of being surrounded by stuff. I get to make a mess that I know is easy to clean up. And I don't have to clear off the counters to work on my hobby like I would have had to do in the past if I had tried. When I think about the equipment and stuff that comes along with gardening, it all feels chosen and specific. I don't know anything here that feels effectively too much. Unpacking all of this stuff for this year felt joyful, and I didn't need to declutter anything to set it up. Minimalist mission accomplished. Since I'm chatting with you about gardening, please allow me to thank Skillshare for supporting this channel and for sponsoring this video. Skillshare is an online creative learning community filled with thousands of diverse classes. I have taken classes with Skillshare on gardening, finance, minimalism, and even interior decorating. Many of these classes are interactive and focus on completing a project and helping you grow. This month, I'm following along with Kelly Newberry and her class on growing herbs in containers. I am new to growing herbs this year, and I'm specifically growing a culinary herb garden for tea and for cooking. I might evolve it into a medicinal herb garden, but I don't really have that learning focus right now. Right now, I'm just mastering growing herbs, and her class is helping me. Sign up for Skillshare using my code Erica Lucas or my link in the description box, and you will get 1 month free trial of Skillshare, so you can start exploring your creativity today. Skillshare has been a longtime sponsor on my channel and could really complement your hobbies too. Take a look on there and see if there's anything on there to help you. Hobby number 2 for me nowadays is reading. It's always been a hobby of mine. I am presently figuring out how to identify my chosen reading hobby clutter from effective clutter. Books are my minimalist Achilles heel and are spread out all over our house. Shelves quickly get messy from the kids sorting through books, and I don't know what we have. My solution will be to pull every book in one massive stacked area and organize it by genre and then reshelve as I go. I've been thinking about this project for a while. During that process, I expect to declutter books and fine-tune our home library into an organized library. If you want to see that process of me gathering all the books and decluttering them and organizing them, drop me a comment below and I will film that. For the purposes of this video today, I share what our bookshelves look like. I did not tidy them just to film this. This is what our real life minimalist looks like in our house. Most of my reading is contained in my Kindle. This device takes up minimal space. It makes it easy for me to read at any hour. I read my Kindle at night after the quiet of the house is descended, and I read about 70 books-ish a year. I tend to like nonfiction in a paperback or hardcover version, and those are scattered throughout the house. My husband's books sit on shelves in our library. Some might call this a living room, a visiting room. He has his books organized by author, genre, and first editions. We actually made this room over with his books in mind to get them out of storage from our basement and use them in his life. I'll link that video below. The rest of our books are kids' books and books referenced for our homeschool. I always have to hunt for books by topic to plan our studies, and I don't even know what we have. I lean on our local library very heavily. We go to the library every Monday and Wednesday for kids events, and we often have 20 or 30 books checked out, and yet I still have all of these books at our house. It is just something that I am not a minimalist about. Our books have started to identify themselves to me as a clutter project. I don't feel a difference between chosen clutter versus effective clutter for this particular hobby of mine, and I'm aiming to deal with that very soon. The third hobby I want to share with you is journaling. In March of 2020, I shared how I journal for self-growth, and in August of 2020, I shared a video about journaling as one of my hobbies, and my journaling process has carried stuff along the way. Markers, stickers, so much more. I have journaled for a long time. Something I have learned as a minimalist when it comes to my hobbies is that a hobby must still bring me joy and must be intentional. This is something I've learned as a minimalist, that just having the stuff, it's not about just having the stuff, it's about using the stuff. And if it feels overwhelming, random, and chaotic or stressful, then it's time for me to evaluate what I'm keeping for that hobby. My journal hobby had changed as a result of minimalism. Journaling used to be a creative escape for me before I had created my own current lifestyle of making life simple, so I can focus on what matters most. And so I only used a few items. And in October of 2021, I processed those extra items as clutter. The items I kept over these last few years have changed from chosen clutter to what I call effective clutter. And my journaling process continues now, but mainly only when I spend time with the Lord and in my Bible study. I have a notebook that I keep in my purse for brain dumps, notes, and calendars. I don't really treat that notebook as a journal any longer like I used to. My hobby still exists, and I just keep a few supplies near my Bible on the days that I Bible journal a few times a week. And these few items are chosen clutter for me. And it's a feeling of calmness when I can grab that stack with one hand and everything is together and it's easy and I don't have to look for things. So now that I shared my hobby clutter with you and my minimalish life over the last couple of years, I want to share with you the minimalist principle I mentioned at the beginning as the one I want to offer to you as an approach for dealing with clutter. And that principle is to see the competition taking place in your home, your life, your schedule, or your mind. Looking at your hobby with honest eyes and clarifying the chosen clutter that needs organization in your home versus effective clutter that may be begging for decluttering. To apply this principle, I let the thing that matters most win in the competition. I identify and clarify what brings me joy, what makes me feel intentional with my time versus the competition. So I'm going to apply this principle to books soon. I apply it to gardening daily for 8 straight months of the year. The shelf here out in the open makes it easy for me to care for plants, and containing the equipment and supply nearby helps. So when I went through my journal supplies, the thing that mattered most to me was having the time to be able to journal the way that I want and having a couple of supplies that were the most important and the most practical. And I had to let everything else go. And what won out was my ability to easily and simply journal. This minimalist principle works in your home, your mind, your schedule, your budget. See the competition taking place around you. What can you see that's causing you stress versus calm? What is chaotic versus calm? What is stressful versus stillness? Multiple items competing for space on your kitchen counter? Commitments competing for your time? Purchases competing for your money? And that was a really big one with this minimalist principle about seeing the competition taking place in your life. Purchases competing for my money was how we dug ourselves out of so much debt, and how we continue to grow our savings account by choosing what is most important to us to spend our money on and being practical and honest about how our money was going out of the house, and seeing how items were competing for every single dollar helped us to really, get our money straight this last couple of years. I gave you too much homework. Tell us your hobby. What presents to you as clutter when you think about your hobby? And if you want a follow-up video with the books and your thoughts on chosen versus effective, I gave you a lot of homework to comment below. Thank you for watching, and here's another video.